Welcome and thanks for joining us today. You're listening to the Women's Broadcast Television Network, and I'm your host, Shay Vaughn. WBTVN is the all-women's internet television station with content that's created by women and for women. And joining us today on our Expert Spotlight show, let me tell you a little bit about him. Dr. Gregory Wiener is board certified in plastic and reconstructive surgery, and a member of the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. Dr. Wiener has been practicing on Chicago's Northwest Side for more than 16 years and is the owner of the Art of Plastic Surgery, a state-of-the-art facility offering today's most advanced surgical and cosmetic technologies. Thank you so much, Dr. Gregory, for being on the show. Can I call you Gregory for the rest
Absolutely.
of the time?
Yeah, absolutely, Shay. Thank you for having me.
So I want to ask you, so tell me a little bit about just even growing up and how did you get to where you are today?
Wow. It started early, actually. I mean, I think it was actually around fourth grade when I knew I wanted to be a doctor. I was interested in
Really?
anatomy.
You were playing doctor?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go there, but that's
this was more of an influential teacher who was very into science and anatomy. And so that's my fourth grade teacher was Mrs. Davis. She was kind of instrumental in kind of getting me started on that track. And then throughout elementary school and into junior high school, I also took an interest in art as well. And so I was always a guy that was kind of sketching and painting and making sculptures. I always had a good relationship with my art teachers as well. And so it kind of came together when I was in med school, and I was watching these guys on a plastic surgery service, and I thought this is it. This is what I want to do. I'm a doctor, but I'm still involved in the artistic part of it.
Exactly. So nobody else in your family, a doctor that was kind of like a mentor to you or you looked up to or that kind of thing?
No, I mean, nobody before me. I have a sister who's an emergency room doctor, but no mentors before me. It just kind of came out of the blue.
Wow, that's great. One of the things that I know about you too is that you really take that extra step that's needed to instill trust with your patients. And
Right.
I can really relate to that because, I mean, goodness, when you're going in and you're going to talk to a plastic surgeon and they're going to get the scalpel out and
Right.
it's like, I want to really trust that you know what you're doing.
No, it's absolutely. It's a process, and it's a big deal because I understand, and my whole staff understands, what that patient is walking into, and we really, and this is not a small thing. I mean, it's a big decision. It's a big decision mentally. It's a big decision financially. It's a big decision, from a time standpoint. I mean, this is something that has a huge impact on my patient's life, and so we want to make sure that they're comfortable basically every step of the way. And so my consultations they're over an hour long. I mean, they could be longer. I mean, I have to sit down with that patient and I have to get to know, first of all, what their goals are and what bothers them, what their concerns are. But we have to also look into all the other nooks and crannies. What's their lifestyle? I mean,
Yes.
What else are you doing? How is your diet? I mean, are you exercising? And if so, how much are you exercising? Because that's also going to tell us, what they may look like down the road as well, and how well and also how motivated that
Right.
Because
I think that many times instead of having the right lifestyle, that doesn't mean that they don't need surgery afterwards because you get loose skin and all of those kinds of things.
Exactly.
But isn't that a better thing to really have to deal with than going in because you're not, healthy in the ways that what you're eating and the choices that you're making in life and the exercise? And it doesn't mean that you're just, killing yourself every day or that you can't have something that you fancy. But it's just that you can't do it. You just can't have that the only thing that you're eating, or
Right.
you're doing no exercise, you know,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have that conversation constantly. I mean, patients who, you know, there's the patients who, you know, they're overweight, they're not doing the right things, you know, they're not eating right, they're not exercising, and they want the quick fix. And I've got to sit down with those patients and have an even longer conversation about, you know, you need to get this stuff on track before you make these decisions for surgery. I mean, it's not, you know, a lot of patients want the surgery to kickstart the rest of their process. They're saying, let me have the surgery. If I can just get that surgery done,
Well, I'm going to do everything right after that.
From there, we're good.
That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't happen. And you don't want to see your patient come back, you know, a year later, having put on weight or having slipped backwards. I mean, it's not a good thing.
It's a real challenge because you know, someone comes to you, want to help them, and
Right.
it's not just the surgery. It really is from a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And it really is from the heart, because you want them to have the success, to feel great, you know, about themselves, to give them more confidence.
Right.
All of those things play such a huge part in just living life on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. And if those things aren't, I mean, if those things aren't in place as much as they can be, I mean, you know, there's less, I mean, I want a happy patient. I mean, I want somebody who's going to be, we're going to have a successful surgery, we're going to have a successful outcome, and that patient is going to be happy that she did what she did. And,
Absolutely.
And that's,
Absolutely.
and so
I always say the happy wife first, happy patient second.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's true. Yeah.
Anyway, I want to mention that you also you were named the Consumers Research Council of America top surgeon, and is a member of the esteemed College of Surgeons, FACS.
Right.
And you also you're in Illinois.
Right. Exactly.
And you received the honor of Best Beauty Surgeon. What does that mean?
Well,
I mean, I want to come to you and just drop myself off for like a month, and I'll come back and, you know, and pick myself up. But that's what women are looking for, beauty.
Right.
Are you kidding? That's the whole reason why they're doing it. They don't want to look their age. They want to look younger, because the truth of the matter is, inside they are.
Right. Well, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
And inside they are. So you're giving them this, you're the best beauty surgeon out there.
Well, I mean, I like to think that I'm good at what I do. I mean, these awards are, I mean, they're really nice. I think one of the main things to remember, Shay, is when you're, you know, when anyone is looking for plastic surgery, you know, if you go to a board certified plastic surgeon, you know, who's got some experience, that's the most important thing. And it's got to be a plastic surgeon that's certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery.
I totally agree on that.
We're the guys. Exactly. We're the guys that we've got the most training. I mean, we've got a board that is really built to certify us for this type of surgery. And there's lots of other strange boards out there that have been put together by people who do plastic surgery but aren't necessarily plastic surgeons. So you got to go to a board certified plastic surgeon who has experience in the type of procedures you're looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you got to do some research. Don't you think it's good to do some research to make sure that they have those credentials?
Absolutely. Exactly.
Because most people don't even understand, you know, what is that? They see all these other credentials that are it's not like they're real, but you don't know.
Exactly. I've seen it get a little more, patients are asking about that a little bit more than they used to, but still not enough. Still, you know, I mean, people hear about somebody, they go, they don't even ask about qualifications. I mean, but it's important. You know, you got to ask about the American Board of Plastic Surgery. That's the key right there.
I love that. That's great. That's great information. Top Doc by realself.com is an award that you won. I love that. Top Doc.
Right. Well, you know, there's a few of those, but I do appreciate that. But I mean, we've got a high visibility there, and we do a lot of we have a lot of nice patients who write a lot of nice things about us, and so it's really become a big factor as far as our visibility, because, you know, we have happy people happy patients, and so there's a generally good feeling about the practice, I think.
Absolutely. And you actually got that because of the community-driven medical and aesthetics research for those seeking plastic surgery treatments.
Right.
This is kind of what we're, talking about right now.
Exactly.
And you've also been featured in medical expert prominent media outlets such as Fox News, NBC, Vogue,
Right.
Chicago Times, on and on and on, Chicago
Right.
Women's, Oxygen Magazine, CBS.
Yeah.
I mean, I really take the time to bring this out because I really want our audience to know that we're really talking to one of the top docs
Well, I appreciate
out
that.
there,
Yeah.
and that you care so much about your patient. You take the time to sit with them, find out what their goals are,
Right.
figure it all out,
Right.
and make a decision about what they should do.
Sure, exactly. I mean, it's definitely a process, and I think that's part of the reason we've been on in the media so much is because we do that because of our process,
Right.
because of the fact that it's a situation where communication and really sitting down is so important. I mean, this is there's plenty of people out there that run this type of business as an assembly line, and you can't.
Yes, and they don't have that personal touch that
Right.
really starts to build a relationship with that patient.
Well, that's a key thing that you just. I mean, the relationship, because I mean, I've got to have a relationship with that patient before we walk into that operating room. I mean, I've got to really understand as well as I can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have we have very candid discussions. I mean, we've got to be on the same page.
Exactly.
If that time isn't taken and we're not on the same page, you can have somebody who's not happy, afterwards. That's not
or expectations that aren't met.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most difficult thing. If you can sit down and you can say, okay, look, I can do this for you.
Right.
And it's going to give you a better look. It's going to lift this.
Right.
It's going to do whatever.
Right. But I can't do that. Right.
You can't do, exactly.
Yeah, that's huge. That's another huge, the relationship part, and just what you mentioned, the managing expectations. It's a massive thing because if patients understand what the limitations are, then again, more likely you're going to have somebody who's going to be happy with the results.
Absolutely. So you've got my trust now. So now what I want to do, I want to talk about the latest trends.
Okay.
In plastic surgery. So what would you say about what's going on? What has changed over, time? Because we can talk about the Brazilian butt lift and
right.
We can talk about the Gumby or the
gummy bear implants,
the gummy bear and the fat transfer procedure and stuff, all of that stuff.
Right.
And this is really what we need to be educated on.
Right.
To know that, they put these names to it, but this is pretty serious. And you want to know what that's going to look like when it's all done and said. But I got to ask you one question. So would you say that more women today, depending upon their size and so on and so forth, are looking for, bigger lifted butts? Would you say that?
Well, in a word, yes. Yeah, I think overall, yes. I mean, I think, initially, I mean, this whole, butt, issue has been around for a little while. I mean, it started probably in my practice. It started 10 years ago on some level, and initially it was more of a cultural issue. But now, it's become a media-driven issue as well. I mean, Kim Kardashian and J-Lo and
all those. I mean, I think this was the influencers that you're mentioning that said it's okay to have a little bit more there.
Absolutely.
And it can be attractive, and it can be,
Exactly. And it's fine to have a full round, butt. It's great to have, a tight waistline and a full round looking buttocks. I mean, that's a sexy look. I mean, and women want that.
That's what we're talking about. And women, and men want women to look sexy.
Right.
And women want to look sexy.
Absolutely.
For their husbands and whatever. I think that's, that's all good.
It is. I think it's a great because it's when you look at the human form. I mean, having a flat buttock really it doesn't fit. I mean, and a lot of women used to tell me I would never put fat into my butt, but when you really look at how the buttock looks with a little bit more volume, if you do happen to be devolumized or have some flat, some flatness to the buttock.
It's called sinking.
Exactly. Yep.
It's down here. It's not up here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you want to change that shape.
Exactly.
That is changed over time and kind of get more of that youthful.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely. No question. I mean, and it really, my patients run the gamut as far as age goes too, because you do have the younger women who want to look like J-Lo, but you've also got women who are in their 40s, in their 50s, have had kids, have had weight fluctuations, and they've lost volume in their buttocks the same way they've lost volume in their
60s and 70s. It depends on what the lifestyle is and how active they are and how they feel about themselves. And, sometimes we kind of just, all of a sudden we look in the mirror, wait a minute, who's that? Kind of thing. Exactly. And you want to bring that confidence and you want to bring that person back that you recognized before.
Exactly. And those patients don't need to look like Kim Kardashian. Those patients just want some of that soft, full look that they had, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so they're not massive procedures for those patients. They're just adding some volume where they need some volume, and it works out beautifully.
So a little rounder, look and whatever.
Exactly.
Put those jeans on, turn around sideways, and look.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the waistline gets a little bit narrow. Typically what we're doing with these procedures is going after the waistline in a big way, because what happens typically is the waistline expands a little bit, the butt decreases in volume, and we want to go reverse that. We want that waistline to be as narrow as possible, and that's really half the battle with the whole buttock.
Yes, issues. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And instead of counting on putting on pants that are really too tight for you to hold it up, here's something that they can, have.
That's exactly right. Because and women say that
all the time. When they jump in the shower, they can tell.
Exactly. Women are saying that my pants are staying up. I mean, the pants stay up. I mean, and you can have you can buy a pair of pants with a really narrow waistline, and everything looks better. Pants look better. Skirts look better. I mean, everything looks.
Yeah, it really does. And I love the idea that you're really concentrating on the waist too, because with increasing those things, people are kind of like saying, "Well, I don't want to add more to what I've already got." But the truth of the matter is, you're going in and shaping, that waistline along with that. Which even if you didn't end up doing the butt, is probably something that somebody might want to come in. And even with loose skin, even if they exercise, once again, I get back to that. You can exercise, and as time goes by, everything gets pulled down anyway. There's nothing wrong when getting some of that just cut away, and tightened more than anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, the waistline. Back to the waistline issue. I mean, I can fairly aggressively suction the lower back and waistline because the skin is typically thicker there. Yes. You can really go after that area, and there's very little in the way of major contour problems you're going to have because the skin is so thick. Even for women in their 60s or 70s, it's gonna tighten up on some level, and your butt's going to look better even if we don't even put any fat in. I mean, by taking that bulk out of that waistline, the butt's going to look better, even before we even put any fat in there. And it's a major, again, a major part. It's more of a, these fat transfer processes are almost a full body contouring when you really get into the.
They are totally a full pot. I mean, everything gets. Right. Shaped up and looks better, and it is contouring to what it is that you're looking for. I love that.
Yeah.
So gummy bear breast implants. I mean, breast implants first have been around for a long time.
Right.
They've actually changed a lot of what they used to do with the different materials.
Right.
The thickness or the non-thickness of that.
Right.
Saline to other,
Right.
other products that are, used to pump those out. What's
Exactly.
the most natural, would you say now? Because I know there's been a lot of changes.
Right. I mean, they've run the implants have run the gamut. I mean, it's been a pretty interesting process. I mean, the initial implants that were actually developed in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, they were silicone, but that was a very liquidy type of gel, and the shell of those implants also wasn't a fantastic shell. So those early implants, which were used through the 70s and 80s, were then taken off the market because the liquidy gel in those implants and would actually leach or ooze through the shell. So it was not a good thing. Those implants leaked a lot, and they were ultimately taken off the market. And then from about 1992 to 2006, theoretically, you really couldn't use silicone in what we call a primary breast augmentation patient, somebody who's never had implants before. You had to use saline. It went completely. They were taken off the market in this country.
I remember that, and I know that there was a lot of people that really didn't have issues, with it. And
Right.
yet felt that when all of the research came out on that
Yeah.
they needed to go in and protect themselves,
Yes,
kind of a prevention kind of thing.
absolutely.
Saline, because if there was any leakage at some point in time or whatever, they wouldn't suffer any, consequences because of that.
Exactly. Now, one thing that I do want to mention is that initially they had surmised that the silicone was actually causing illness. So they thought that there was some link towards collagen vascular disease and autoimmune diseases. That turned out actually not to be the case. So yes, they were bad implants, and yes, they leaked a lot, but there was no illnesses that were being caused by that leaked gel.
Okay.
So, but yeah, the bottom line, it was a mess. I mean, women were racing to get their implants removed. I mean, it was a very difficult situation. But then almost immediately, new companies came on the scene and began to develop new implants, and those new implants that were developed, starting in the mid 90s, are the implants we're using today on some level. Now they've gone through several generations of improvement during that time, and in 2006 there was enough good data to show that breast implants, silicone gel breast implants, were now safe enough for the general public to now use.
So they brought them back on.
Yep, in 2006.
What you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We were using them before 2006, but it was you had to enroll your patient in kind of a national study where they had, so it was kind of a big deal. And then after they had their 10 years of data from 95 to about 2005, enough data was accumulated to where the Food and Drug Administration said, okay, now we know we have safe implants.
Okay. So are those what is used mostly today then?
Yes, that's what's used mostly today. However, the gel, the gummy bears are yet another generation of these implants. And gummy bears are not necessarily. I mean, the gummy bear thing is kind of a media term. I mean, what that implant really is it's kind of basically a thicker gel. All of this gel has a certain degree of what we call cross-linking between the molecules. The molecules of the gel themselves is kind of tied together to one molecule to another. The more cross-links chemically that you have, the firmer the gel, and the more that implant will actually hold its shape. And so, the implants that we're using today are one version of that. The gummy bears are yet another more higher cross-linking version of that. So the gummies are actually a slightly firmer gel. And that's good for some women, but maybe not good for others. The gummies are, if you really have lost, say you've lost a lot of volume in the breast after pregnancies or after weight loss and that kind of thing.
Just aging, whatever.
Exactly. And you want to recreate that volume, and you've got thinner tissues, you've got thinner breast, you've got thinner skin, you've got thinner, amounts of tissue. Then a gummy is a great option for you because that implant, number one, it's going to hold its shape. Number two, it has very little natural folds in the implant. And so there's a low risk that you're going to see what we call rippling, which is when you can see a fold in the implant through the skin. And there's very little risk that you're going to have what we call implant palpability, where you can actually feel the implant through the skin. So those gummies are great at that, especially for women who have basically thinner patients with thinner tissue.
Wow, I thought that was kind of like making sausage, where they take things and stuff in it. I thought they were just gummy bears. Because if
Right.
you feel those or eat those, they're so soft and just like it says, and they're just like, doing that.
Right, stuffing them in there. Well, I mean, in a way, that's true. I mean, you are putting the gel into a shell, and
Exactly.
it is, it's exactly.
Just melt the gummy bears, you could save some money. I mean, I'm not quite sure.
Right. Yeah, FDA might not approve that, but it's a good thought.
All right. So, wow. So how many patients do you actually see coming into wanting a change in size where breasts are concerned? Because, right. I mean, seriously, I look around, I see all of these women, they got the biggest breasts that I've ever seen. We know that they weren't born like that.
Of course.
But I mean, it's sexy to a point. But
right.
Then actually, seriously, I've seen a lot of them as they age, kind of go, you know what? These are really. It's not easy to play golf in this, and they get in the way. And I don't need them this big anymore. I've got my husband.
Right. Exactly.
He doesn't care anymore, and and he shouldn't. I mean, it's kind of like he loves you, so he wants you to be comfortable.
Right, and we see that for sure.
Coming from all the good, from all the good reasons, and so do you see a lot of people coming in and taking them down a little bit?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the key in the first place is to choose an implant that is reasonable. I mean, I find myself talking, especially younger patients, I find that myself talking them down a little bit, because I mean, I want to make sure they're going to look good 5 or 10 years down the line, not just good for a year or two, and then you've stretched the tissues out so much that if there is a pregnancy later, or if there is a weight fluctuation later, then you're banking on another surgery for sure. Right. I mean, and so in most of my initial consultations, excuse me, I'm trying to basically manage the volume issue. Trying to get it down to
just a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger.
Everyone comes in and says, well, all my friends tell me that after their breast augmentation, they wish they had gone bigger. And so that's what I hear like time and time again.
I hear that too, but I actually, when they get older and later on, I really hear people saying it's too much. I'm just,
no question.
An E and a D is just,
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. And we do a fair amount of that. I mean, there's a fair degree of that. Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, do you prefer, and tell me why, some of the surgeons do either under the muscle or over the muscle? And I've heard so many conflicts on that. I have no idea.
Right.
I hear people talking about it. Oh, I went to this. Well, how did they do it? It was under the muscle. No, you shouldn't do that. There's always somebody that had it done the other way. And so comes this conversation. What is your opinion on that?
Right. Well, I'm kind of an under the muscle guy. I mean, I think both options are reasonable, but there's a, if you can, I think there's less overall potential for issues if it's beneath the muscle. I mean, the muscle, basically adds another good layer of your tissue on top of that implant. So, you're going to have, with that extra layer of tissue over the implant, you're going to have, I think, a more natural look and feel.
Well, that was the other thing too. It's just going to look more natural.
Yeah. You're going to look. It's going to look more natural and feel more natural. And there's also a lower incidence of what we call capsular contracture underneath the muscle. Contracture is when scar tissue that forms around the implant can sometimes harden. And it's one of the things in plastic surgery that we really haven't quite figured out how to stop completely yet. Yeah. And there is, when you have that scar tissue, and it doesn't, I think the national average is somewhere around, 10 or 12% of women will have some form of that. In some other practice, like my practice, a little bit lower, maybe around 5 or 6%, but still, we're doing lots of things to try to decrease that possibility. But and placing it under the muscle is another thing that we can do to kind of decrease that potential that you're going to have harder scar tissue develop. Now, there's some downsides to being under the muscle. I mean, if you're working out in the gym every day and you're in fantastic shape, and especially if you like to work out the upper body, when that muscle moves, the implant moves a little bit, and so it's that can be a little disconcerting and doesn't always look fantastic when it's happening, and so there could be some issues there. And I've just let my patients know. I mean, just wear a good sports bra, and something that's well, supportive, and you should be fine. But it is one of the downsides of it.
Right. So with the scar tissue, it seems to me like what happens? I've heard people go in and have something done because they got hard.
Right.
It seems to me that it's not the implant that's changed. It's the scar tissue that is pushing it or whatever, and
that's exactly right.
Not look natural.
That's exactly right. I mean, what we've kind of narrowed it down to at this point is that there's some bacteria in the pocket with the implant, and it's not enough bacteria to cause an infection, a full-blown infection that would cause, God forbid, the implant to be removed. I mean, that doesn't happen. It's what's called a subclinical infection. So it's just enough bacteria to cause a kind of a chronic inflammatory reaction around that implant. And that inflammatory, it's like your body's kind of fighting off the bacteria and controlling it, so it doesn't become a full-blown infection, but there's just enough inflammation happening there to cause that scar tissue to kind of thicken a little bit. Right. And so what we're working on now is ways to decrease any possibility of bacteria entering the pocket. So, we do different things like I've kind of gone more to an underneath the breast incision, because if you make an incision around the areola near the nipple, which I used to do for years, it's a very popular incision.
Very popular.
But there's bacteria that live in those milk ducts, in those lactiferous ducts. There's bacteria that naturally live in those ducts. So there could be more bacteria in that area, even though the skin has been prepped and the skin is sterile. You make an incision and there's some bacteria there. Same thing with the underneath the arm incision. You've got lots of sweat glands in there. There's a higher bacterial content potentially involving those glands. So I'm not saying that everybody has to have an inframammary incision, but it's one of the things I talk to my patients about, that there's a 3 to 5% lower chance you're going to get a contracture going beneath the breast.
Right.
And through the areola or underneath the arm. And we do other things like what's called a no-touch technique. So we use a special sheath to slide the implant into the pocket so it's not touching the skin, and we change our gloves before putting the implant in. Everyone gets a triple antibiotic wash into the pocket before the implant's put in.
Okay.
So lots of things we're doing these days to decrease that. Yeah.
Well, you've taught us a lot, and I just want to really quickly go over the fat transfer that's done. So we take fat from where we don't want it, we put it where it is, and it's like repurposing, right?
Right, exactly.
And it really has a lot of benefits in doing that, because it can give you a more youthful look.
Absolutely.
In those areas that are kind of sunken.
Right.
And so you do a lot of that.
Yes, I mean, fat's really, in my mind, the ultimate filler. I mean, we have our Juvederm and our Restylane and all the other things that we have, but fat is the ultimate filler. It's your tissue. It's soft. It's natural. And the big deal is that we've kind of figured out, to a large degree, how to treat that fat when we harvest it, and how to treat that fat when we put it in, so that it's going to survive. And that's the big thing. I mean, I was doing fat transfer 10 years ago, but I was doing it in a different way I'm doing it now. And I think half the fat we put in, we'd lose. Now we know a little bit more about being gentle to the fat. When we're the suctioning process is
it out. Yes. Okay.
Gentler. Everything's gentler. The way we suction the fat is gentler. The way we're putting the fat in droplet by droplet is gentler. I mean, and so we're having higher survival, whether it's fat in the face or whether it's fat in the buttocks or whether it's fat in the breasts. I mean, we're revolumizing all these areas with fat. I mean, and it's working now. I mean, and that's the big issue. I mean, we've also figured out that with the aging face, especially, it's just as much a loss of volume as it is skin laxity. I mean,
Yes.
Facelifts 25 years ago was pull the skin back, end of story. And now we're restoring volume to the face. We're filling in the hollow around the eyes. We're filling in the hollow in the temples. We're filling the hollows in the cheeks. And a lot of women can get by with that kind of fat transfer and not have a facelift. I mean,
Right.
and so we're figuring out that revolumizing things. I mean, when you age, the loss of volume is just as important and significant as the skin laxity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there just seems to be so many more choices and options today,
Yeah.
and procedures that are less invasive.
Yes, exactly.
And so you have options to be able to figure out,
Right.
how you want to treat this, and all of those things are so important to look healthy and just feel
Absolutely.
healthy and feel good about yourself. And
Yeah.
and if we could just figure out a way for insurance to pay for all this,
That would be fantastic.
yeah, that would be fantastic, and that's never going to happen. We just want to
Right.
have good health care for everybody. That's
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's really what's counts. So
Right.
I want people to know how to get in touch with you. So where do they go?
Well, we're at www.theartofplasticsurgery.com. So it's a long one.
Hey, theartofplasticsurgery.com. That's
Yep.
easy enough for everybody to remember.
Exactly.
And you're in Chicago, but you have patients that really come to you all over.
Yeah, we have
All
more.
over the world. They fly in because he's the doc. He's the doc.
We've got all of that set up. If you come from out of town, we'll take good care of you. We have all the options there as well, and so we have a great team here. They really care about our patients, and you'll be well taken care of for sure.
Well, I think that is a great message, because I'm sure people were sitting there and thinking, how do I get to this guy and whatever, but you've got it all planned out.
Yeah,
and you take care of them, and everything is great, and you go home feeling like $1 million.
That's the object, right there.
And that's the whole thing. Well, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being our guest today, Dr. Gregory Wiener. And I want to just say to the audience, thank you for joining us today. And if you're interested in being on the Spotlight Show, because you're an expert, go to wbtvn.tv and fill out the form, and we will get in touch with you. So until the next time, everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much.